Everest Live, June 2nd. Getting close to June 3rd. It's late here in Kathmandu, and I just filed a story for Outside Magazine. Goes into much more detail about the conditions around the story of Hillary Dawa's final moments at the Yellow Band above Camp 3. Today I was able to speak with one of the people who was with him during the descent, who was a part of the team that he was working for. It's a gentleman named Chris Thrall. I'm going to repost his post on his Instagram where he tells the story from his own perspective. It's excuse me, the same story that he told me. There were some areas where he shared some more details and so on and so forth when he and I talked. But the story checks out. This guy was a part of the Himalayan Traverse team, and he's come down to Kathmandu with a lot on his mind and his heart. And I'd have to say my heart really goes out to him. It seems like that whole expedition experienced something that many of us can't really imagine what it's like to go through. So for you all, here's what I've learned about the situation since we spoke yesterday. What I've learned is that basically the team summited very late on the 29th. Chris was saying that his team summited around 6 p.m., which is extremely late, especially since they left Camp 4 at 11 p.m. the night before. I mean, that's getting up onto 18 hours just ascending to the summit. What happens when teams go through this kind of scenario is that your oxygen runs low. Not only are you exhausted from being on the mountain for that long, but everybody's oxygen's low. That's including your Sherpa team. As they were descending, one of the Sherpas, there were 2 climbers and 2 Sherpas. One of the Sherpas went ahead and continued directly down to Camp 2. Hillary Dawa was left then with 2 climbers descending. One was this gentleman, Chris Thrall, a British gentleman, and another was a Polish climber who is still unnamed. The Polish climber was suffering from severe frostbite on his hands. As they descended, to make a long story short, from Camp 4, they basically just kept swapping leads. The Polish climber kind of went ahead, and Chris and Dawa were just kind of, based on their pace. Some would go first, some would go second, and just kind of keeping pace with one another as they went down. At the Yellow Band, Chris told me that Hillary Dawa sat down on a rock. Chris asked him if he was okay, and he said, "Yeah, I'm absolutely fine. Go ahead. I'm going to catch up with you." And Chris continued down because he was concerned about the frostbitten Polish climber. When he caught up with the frostbitten Polish climber, he was in bad shape, and he informed Chris that his oxygen had run out. At this point, Chris looked back up, and Hillary Dawa wasn't moving on the rock. Enough time had passed that this elicited some concern for him. So you can imagine the position that, according to Chris, he was in this moment. He's with a climber who's struggling, who's out of oxygen. You're at 7,600 meters, and you're in a position where either direction you go in, somebody is going to be in serious trouble. And I think Chris, who only had half a liter of oxygen, wisely made the decision to continue down with the frostbitten Polish climber. He still held hope that Dawa was just resting and would catch up with him. They moved on to Camp 3, where Chris shared his oxygen, cooked some water, melted some water, and helped out the Polish climber, all the time expecting Dawa to show up. The two, I'll not condense the story, but the two had an absolute epic getting back to Everest Base Camp. I think it's fair to say that they are both very lucky to be alive. It was an incredibly difficult journey for them. I mean, it took them, untold days more to reach Everest Base Camp on a climb that should take only a handful of hours. They were in very, very rough shape, and the conditions on the mountain, because the mountain had already been packed up, no one was there maintaining the route, were absolutely horrendous, and they persevered and walked down under their own power to Everest Base Camp. Chris mentioned to me, he said that I'm really tired of people calling me a murderer on social media, and I can see how, and we've seen this in our comments as well, how people can say, how can you abandon somebody on the mountain like that? And it's a very, very good question. Chris comes from a background in the Royal Marines. He talked to me about how his training, his philosophy, his ethics in his life are never to leave somebody behind. Chris also, though, has an 11-year-old son that he promised he would return to in the UK. The truth of the matter is, in and around the death zone on Mount Everest, the majority of climbers are expending all of their energy, more energy than they've expended on anything ever in their lives, simply surviving, simply getting down. And this is on oxygen. We hear stories all the time of Sherpa climbers rescuing people from Camp 4. We hear stories of Sherpa climbers carrying people down from the high camps. I think that sometimes desensitizes us, the viewing public, to the true difficulties up there. Whereas those stories should be stories of people achieving superhuman feats, things that ordinary humans like you and I and Chris and 99.9% of the clients on the mountain simply physically could not do. I personally, from the information I've been given, believe strongly that had Chris chosen to go up and help Dawa down, the chances are good there would be 3 bodies on that mountain right now. And I think he did very much the right thing, as tragic as this is for Dawa. The more tragic part of this story that I've dived into, is that despite being informed on May 29th of Dawa's condition, Himalayan Traverse did not initiate a rescue. Himalayan Traverse is a small trekking company or expedition company. Oftentimes, these companies get their expedition permits through other expedition companies. The company that got the permits in this case was called 8K Expeditions. I spoke with the director of 8K. He himself learned about what happened to Hillary Dawa through the media. He told me unequivocally that he was never approached. There was insurance available to initiate a search and rescue operation for Hillary Dawa. And that insurance was never initiated. That request was never made. In Chris's description to me, he believes that Dawa died there on the rock, probably fell asleep. He was probably out of oxygen. We can speculate, but he believes that the chances of Dawa being alive are 0. This is the consensus of the mountaineering community here. To this end, 8K, being the permit holders for this expedition, have initiated very quickly, as soon as they knew, they initiated all of the insurance procedures. They received permission today to conduct aerial search and rescue flights, which I assume will probably start at dawn tomorrow. So things are happening, just tragically too late. Check out Chris's video. He's meeting with the family tomorrow. We'll keep you posted. It's a sad story. We've been in close contact with people at the Juniper Fund. Everybody's here to support. Everybody's here to make this horrible situation as, good as we possibly can, which still makes it a horrible situation. So again, that's the updates, folks. Unfortunately, this Everest at the end of the season here reminded us of what the mountain can be in its darkest hours and darkest moments. Our love and condolences are with Hillary Dawa's family, his daughter and his wife, and we will keep you posted as efforts to help them evolve. If you are moved by this story, again, please just make a donation to the Juniper Fund and just indicate that it's for Hillary Dawa and I'm sure they'll make sure it goes to the right place. Thank you. Stay in touch. Watch Chris's video, and we'll talk to you again soon.